Seltzer Kings.
Podcasts.
I found a kid who swings a golf club like a dream. I'd like to try to qualify him for the U.S. Amateurs.
Coming to Apple TV Plus.
What's your name?
I'm not into older guys, but I'm flattered.
A new comedy series, Stick.
I don't want to go on this trip.
Your mouth's saying one thing, but those eyes are saying something else.
From the home of Ted Lasso.
This is your shot at redemption? This is your mulligan?
Owen Wilson.
This game takes and it takes. The game's finally giving me something back.
Stick.
You know Arnold Palmer?
Iced tea, lemonade, mix it.
I'm missing a nap for this.
Streaming June 4th on Apple TV Plus.
I don't so much believe in ghosts. Never have. Most ghost stories I've heard comes from someone who wants to sell me something, even if all they're trying to sell me is on the idea that they have seen a ghost. Doesn't mean I don't like ghost stories. I love them. A good spooky story on a dark night, perfect for setting a mood. But believe in them? No. I would need to see a ghost myself to believe, and I just never have. Okay, honestly, I did see something one time. I'm not saying it was a ghost. There were plenty of rational explanations that almost certainly, but not entirely, explain what happened. Why don't I tell you what happened? And you can decide for yourself what I saw that night. It was late. It was early by the world standards, several hours from sunrise on a foggy Sunday morning. The bar traffic had dropped off and the world went quiet, in that way that only a foggy, moonless night can be quiet. The world on a foggy night is strange. The orbs around the streetlights, all the sounds are muffled, and you can feel very alone when the fog presses close around you. I was at work. At the time, I was a young military policeman in the U.S. Air Force stationed in northeast Arkansas near the town of Blytheville. Don't bother looking it up, the base closed nearly 40 years ago. That particular morning, I was assigned to the base's main gate, the only way onto or off of the base at that hour. And you work such a post alone on the midnight shift, though you would occasionally see other police patrols as they prowled around in the dark. After 3 in the morning, when the bars were all closed and the drunks were all home, you might not see another person for hours, excepting the newspaper delivery man who usually passed between 3 and 4 a.m. to deliver the Sunday paper. The paperman had come and gone. The police radio was Sunday morning silent, which meant that everyone was either asleep, hanging out the base hotel or the emergency room, 2 places which had a larger percentage of young women on staff than any other place that was open at this hour, or back at the station shooting the shit with the desk sergeant. Because life on a small Air Force base in the rural northeast Arkansas didn't have a lot of what you could call action. The main gate at Acre Air Force Base was about 25 yards off the highway. A red light let cars leaving the base onto State Route 181, appropriately, if not creatively named, Air Base Highway. A concrete traffic island ran from the red light to the gatehouse between the inbound and outbound lanes. And along the perimeter base ran a chain-link fence with light poles about every 100 yards or so. The base had nuclear weapons on it, so there was some thought given to keeping the perimeter clear of brush and well lit. But tonight, it was just all blobs of light in the fog. On the left was a small building with a parking lot that was the Welcome Center. The only reason I'm telling you this is because the area around me specifically was pretty well lit, even in the fog. I couldn't make out details. This will be important shortly. I was reading the funny pages when I saw him. I looked up and I could see a man walking down the highway outside the base, just kind of a figure in the fog at the moment. It was very unusual to see anyone walking along a 4-lane highway at any time of the day. But at this hour, it was unheard of. But I didn't think too much about it. Maybe it was a drunk walking home to avoid a DUI. I went back to the comics section, and he was off base, and very much not my problem. When I glanced back up a minute or so later, the man was standing at the end of the traffic island, staring at me. He looked 60-ish to me. I was 19, so anyone with gray hair must have been at least 60. And he was dressed in what looked to be a Vietnam-era OD green. Could have been a field jacket, but maybe it was a flight suit. It was foggy. He was tall and lean and just standing there, hands in his pockets, staring at my gate shack. He kind of looked threatening with the red traffic light behind him, but I told myself, it's just my brain playing tricks. It's a trick of the light. And I figured if he wanted something, he could walk down to the gate and I'd step out and see what it was. But no. He just stood there, staring at me. I was scared. I had a phone, a radio, a gun. I was young, in great shape. I was pretty sure I could handle one old man if it came to it. But I'm not exactly sure how long he stood there. My memory was, it was a long time, but it was probably only a minute or two before my curiosity peaked and I decided, you know what, I'm going to step out of the gatehouse and see what he wanted. Put my hand on the glass to open the door, and every fucking light on the entire perimeter and the rest of the base went out like that. The lights across the highway from the base were on, but the fog, they didn't help anything. The traffic light was on, and it was red, and it would stay that way for a long time in the wee hours of the morning, but again, it didn't help. And exactly the same moment the lights went out, my portable police radio began to squelch, all white noise and static just blaring out of the speaker. And I tried to radio in with the lights were out, but I couldn't transmit through the static, so I picked up the phone, which was a direct line to the police desk, but it was silent. No sound. So I grabbed my big flashlight, pushed the door of the gatehouse open and stepped outside, and I clicked it on, about half afraid that it too wouldn't go on, but I got that nice bright beam, and that's when I noticed that the old man wasn't at the end of the traffic island anymore. The red light still illuminated the spot where he stood, but now it was empty. Nothing that happened that night was impossible, mind you. The base had its own dedicated electrical substation from the surrounding area, and if there were a problem with that, then yeah, the lights on the base could go out, leaving the lights just across the road still on. And the radios, they were old and shitty, even for 1988 when this happened. And they were always a little wonky, either from atmospheric conditions or sunspots, or even sometimes the air approach control radar could cause interference if the conditions were just right. So the radio going out, not unheard of. Though, it had never happened like this before. And the direct phone? Well, that's harder to wave away. It was a single line that went only one place, the police desk. And the only way it could be disconnected is by cutting the wire outside the gate, or if somebody at the base switchboard turned it off. Now, the old man disappearing, well, I was positive he hadn't gone past me. Not in the few seconds it took me to stand up while looking directly at him and take one step. I mean, he could have gone across the street into the fog or ran to my left or to my right on the airbase, down the fence. Sure, that could have happened, and that was the problem. My entire job was to make sure that things like that didn't happen, that people didn't come on the base that weren't supposed to be there. I needed help. I couldn't get it because my radio and phone don't work. Then I finally remembered that there were in fact two phones at the gate, the direct line and just the regular phone. So I grabbed the regular phone and I dialed the number to the law enforcement desk. It was never, when I picked that up, man, I was never happier to hear a dial tone because by this time I'm starting to freak out a little bit. So the phone rings and it rings and it rings before finally I could hear an angry voice as it was picked up. And in the background, I could hear the radio console roaring static and the piercing tones of every burglar alarm on the base going off at the same time. Something which I had only seen happen in a diagnostic test. The voice on the phone shouted at me something like, "Base police, is this an emergency?" And I said, "Yes, it's me, it's Bledsoe, I've got a problem." The desk sergeant, my direct supervisor, Sergeant Jackson, shouted back at me, "It will have to fucking wait," and hung up. So I stood there, in the dark, with my flashlight shining all around me looking for the old man. The weird old man that had stood staring at me in the middle of the night. And I decided, no, you know what, this can't wait. So I called back, this time on the 911 line. This made Sergeant Jackson even angrier because, to be honest, he had a lot going on, and he could see it was me on the caller ID and simply answered the phone by shouting, "I know the fucking lights are out!" And I shouted back that I was pretty sure I had illegally through the gate and I needed a patrol out there right now. This calmed him down enough for me to briefly explain what happened, and he said, "Okay, I'll get somebody there just as soon as I get the radio working." And at that exact instant, everything started working again. The lights all came back on, the radio stopped squelching, and the alarms all reset. It had all happened in less than 5 minutes. So Jackson sent me one of the patrols to the gate, the other dog handler on that night, and he brought his dog with him. When he got there, I told him the full story. I could tell he didn't exactly believe me, but he's like, "All right, I'll check it out." He got his dog. It was a big male 90-pound German Shepherd named, I swear, I am not making this up, Buffy. Buffy was a good dog. I knew Buffy was a damn good dog. He was a good tracking dog, so Gunther, that was the dog handler's name, he took him up there to the top of the traffic island, and he put him on a track. Without being too technical, foggy weather is great for scent tracking people. The humidity traps all the smells that we leave behind really close to the ground, and sure enough, Buffy hit that scent and took off like a fucking arrow, following it right down the middle of the traffic island, straight past the gatehouse, then down the road into the base for about 200 yards until he got to the linebacker bomber memorial. This was a static display B-52. It was a memorial to the pilots the base lost in a Vietnam War era bombing mission. And after that, nothing. Scent was gone. Now again, nothing about this is impossible. Sometimes dogs just lose a scent trail. It's possible the old man was picked up in a car right there, but I never saw headlights or taillights, or maybe they weren't toned on, but I never saw anything, and I will swear on my life that I did not see that old man pass by me. It was dark, it was foggy, but I tell you, I would have known if he had walked or ran past me. And for the next hour, I searched for him and found nothing. The entire incident was declared a nothing happened, with no mention of it in the police blotters. My boss flat out told me to my face that he thought I'd fallen asleep and dreamed up the whole thing and just woke up when the radio started freaking out. It was only because nothing happened that he wasn't going to do anything about it. I don't actually believe that he thought this was the case. He knew me, and this wasn't the kind of troop that did stupid shit like that, but it was an easy explanation. And everyone I worked with busted my balls hard over the whole thing and accused Gunther and me of playing some kind of practical joke. That was the story that everyone was sticking to. Best to forget all about it. I was officially the flight Ghostbuster, and Buffy was called Ghost Dog for months. Now, Gunther told me after it was all over and done that he was positive that Buffy was on a legit scent track. So at least that much was real. He just figured that the old man was picked up in the car and that was it. It was all very strange. Nothing came out of it, so, you know what, best to forget about it. The lights went off. Things got weird. The explanation for the lights going off was never officially explained. The base engineers chalked it up to a power surge, even though none of the breakers had tripped at the substation, and the power surge caused the alarms to activate. The radios were due to sunspots, and the direct line phone, well, it was working now, so officially, nothing happened. It was just one more ghost story on a base that was already filled with ghost stories. People saw ghosts all the time on Acre Air Force Base. The Nuclear Alert parking area was rife with ghost sightings, a red light appearing and disappearing. There were voices in the dark, figures seen running along the fence lines without ever tripping in the pressure alarms that were set along all the fences to keep people out of the nuclear aircraft parking area. The main gate ghost was now Bledsoe's ghost, and it was just one more story in the ghost story mix. So what do I think? Well, I don't know. I already told you I don't believe in ghosts, so sure, maybe some old veteran had decided to walk down a highway at 3 a.m. to visit his old base, and after stopping to take it all in, he walked right past the gate shack during a series of freak occurrences, knocking out the lights, radio, and phones without being seen by the young man working the gate, and all the way down to the memorial for his buddies that died in the war, where he got into a waiting car without any lights on and disappeared into the night. All of that, perfectly possible. And since I don't believe in ghosts, that must have been what happened. Because it did happen. Just like I told you. And I don't believe in ghosts. Happy Halloween, Seltzer Kings.
Seltzer Kings.
Podcasts.